My boyfriend died today. I can't believe I'm typing these words. Part of me thinks that if I stop typing or close my eyes, maybe I'll wake up from a dreadful nightmare, but I'm not waking up. This is my life now. My boyfriend died this morning, and I have no idea how I'm supposed to move forward. He was the man I pictured standing beside me for the rest of my life. The father of my future children, the calm voice in the chaos of daily life, my partner in all things big and small. Now he's gone, and I'm left with an emptiness so vast, I'm not sure it can ever be filled. This is all so fresh. I feel a knot of shock in my stomach, a hollowness in my chest. I keep wanting to talk to him, to text him about random things, forgetting that he's not going to answer, that he never will again. It's just beyond comprehension right now. Recounting the last 24 hours, Christmas shopping, a glimpse of normalcy. Yesterday, we went out for some last-minute Christmas shopping. The holiday was around the corner, and I'd teased him about procrastinating. He eased me back about being too organized. It was a quick trip, just the two of us, fighting crowds and hustle. That's the last normal moment I had with him. We were about to leave the house when he said his chest hurt. I turned around with that immediate flicker of alarm at any mention of chest pain causes, but he described it as sore, not a sharp stabbing, something about how it felt like a bruised muscle, more than real pain. So I brushed it off, attributing it to holiday stress, carrying too many shopping bags, or maybe an old workout injury. He told me not to worry. I assumed he'd be fine. There's something eerie in hindsight about hearing him complain of chest discomfort. I replay that conversation 1,000 times in my mind now. Should I have insisted on a checkup right then and there? Could that have changed anything? The logical side of me tries to reason that I didn't know. He didn't know, but a deeper part can't help but question if I missed the sign that might have saved his life. Fast forward to this morning. I woke up earlier than him. We had a loose plan to wrap presents later, then maybe watch a holiday movie, or do something festive. He was in the bathroom while I was in the living room, half lost in thoughts of Christmas. Suddenly I heard a crash. At first I thought maybe he'd slipped on a wet floor. Then I heard a strange sound, almost like a groan, and my stomach plunged into panic. I rushed to the bathroom door, calling his name. No response. When I opened the door, he was on the floor, unconscious. My heart hammered in my chest. Time sped up and slowed down at once. I recall shouting his name, trying to shake him gently, grabbing my phone to call 911. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped the phone. The dispatcher walked me through chest compressions. Everything blurred. I was terrified, sobbing, and still trying to follow their instructions. But I felt so powerless. The ambulance arrived in what might have been minutes, but felt like a lifetime. Paramedics took over, loading him onto a stretcher. I rode behind them in my car, because they said I couldn't be in the ambulance with them. Or maybe I was too panicked to ask if I could. I remember the route to the hospital more clearly than I should. Each traffic light, the swirl of thoughts in my head. He's going to be okay. He has to be okay. I was telling myself that story to keep from collapsing in sobs. When I pulled into the hospital parking lot, my phone rang. I saw his mom's name on the caller ID. I had no reason to think it was the worst possible news. But as soon as I answered, her voice was so broken, so drenched in grief, that I understood instantly something catastrophic had happened. She told me that he'd died. It felt like the ground under me was cracking open. She explained how the doctors tried so long to resuscitate him, how they never got a stable pulse. She said the doctor mentioned that when the ambulance arrived at the house, his pulse was so weak they weren't sure if it was even there. They worked on him for a painfully long time, but in the end, nothing revived him. I thought I'd remain stoic, that I'd step into caretaker mode, but I sat in the driver's seat, phone in my hand, tears pouring down my face, gasping for air. His mom was crying too. She tried to console me between her own sobs, but I was so lost. I told her I'd come inside, that I was in the parking lot, but I couldn't move. I couldn't even open my car door at first. It felt surreal, like a twisted dream sequence. He couldn't just be gone. He was only in his late 20s. He'd been fine. We went shopping yesterday. We teased each other about holiday decorations. Now he's not here. Coroner's office and unanswered questions. The doctor told me they're not sure how he died. That's why they needed to send him to the county coroner's office. Possibly an undetected heart condition, an arrhythmia, a hidden aneurysm. I have no medical expertise, so I rely on them for answers. But they said it might take days or weeks to get a final cause of death. Meanwhile, I'm stuck in that horrible limbo. No closure, No clue. Did that chest pain he felt the day before indicate a failing heart? Was it something else entirely? The unknown gnaws at me. Even though it's only been hours, I'm aware that soon I'll face the avalanche of practical tasks. Funeral arrangements, phone calls, insurance forms, personal items. That's when my eyes flood with tears again. In the future, if I move or reorganize things, I'll come across his personal possessions, his favorite sweater, the half-wrapped gifts he planned to give me or his family. How do I handle that heartbreak? I don't know what to do. That's the simplest, rawest statement. My mind is swirling with all the intangible next steps, but all I can manage is to curl up and cry. My chest physically aches, as though I can't draw a full breath without him. We'd been together for a while, building a life. It wasn't always perfect. No relationship is, but we'd talk about marriage, about someday having children, about the silly arguments we might have over paint colors in our future house. I pictured him as the father to my kids, the one who'd freak out if the baby's diaper was too complicated. We had inside jokes, shared interests, and a comfortable routine. I was never worried about whether we'd last as a couple. He was the one. Now I'll never see the holidays again. He won't be there for birthdays or random date nights. He won't be in the audience if we'd had kids in a school play. He's gone. That finality is overwhelming. My entire sense of the future has shattered, replaced by a giant blank. I can't imagine forging new dreams without him in them. Alongside the heartbreak, there's a creeping guilt. Why didn't I push him to see a doctor yesterday? Why did I assume it was mild? Rationally, I know I couldn't have known. But grief plays these loops of regret. I keep telling myself I should have recognized a warning sign, forced him to get an ECG or something, but he was just complaining of a mild sore chest. People get muscle aches all the time. Also, part of me is numb, like my emotions shut down after the initial meltdown. I walk around my house, glance at the hamper with his clothes, the gaming console he used, the coffee mug he left on the counter. Each item triggers a mini wave of sorrow. It's going to be a while before I can face it all. I guess that's normal for someone who just lost a partner, but it feels so isolating. His mom is devastated, obviously, and I'm trying to be there for her. Yet I also need someone to be there for me. My own family is stepping up, but we're all reeling. Friends keep calling or texting with condolences, but I can't even muster the energy to reply to each one. I appreciate their concern, but it feels like I'm floating behind glass. Like all that warmth is at a distance, and I can't quite embrace it. Still, I know leaning on them is crucial. The funeral or memorial service will be planned soon. The thought of seeing him in a casket, if that's how it goes, feels unimaginable. I need emotional pillars around me. I've heard it said that when we lose someone, we often isolate ourselves, but that's when we need support the most. Well, part of me wants to hide in bed, but I also sense that I must let people help me, or the sorrow might consume me. At some point, I may need grief counseling. Death in the family, or losing a significant other, can lead to complicated grief, depression, or worse if I don't address it. Right now, I'm too raw to schedule anything, but I keep telling myself that therapy might be essential. The suddenness of his death, with no hint, no chronic illness, makes it extra jolting. Grief counseling could help me find a path forward, piece by piece. I know this heartbreak is fresh, and I should allow myself to feel it fully. People say there's no right or wrong way to grieve. Some days, I'll cry uncontrollably. Others, I might go numb or even laugh at random memories of him. The main thing is to keep going, to survive each day, and eventually to find meaning in life without him physically present. But how? That's the question. He was so integral to my daily routine, from our good morning kisses to the little texts throughout the day. My phone is silent now. My arms want to hug him, but he's not here. I don't know if I'll recover from this, is what I keep thinking. But maybe recover is the wrong word. Maybe I'll learn to live around this giant hole in my life, carrying him in memory. I also keep in mind that the coroner's report might yield some closure. Maybe he had an underlying heart defect, or an aneurysm. Maybe it was a freak heart attack. Knowing might ease the guilt or confusion. Then we can plan a proper farewell. Some ceremony that honors the man he was. The thought of finalizing those details is painful, but it's part of the process. Treasuring memories. I'm trying to latch onto the good memories. Our Christmas shopping trip. We teased each other about how each item we put in the cart would be for ourselves instead of actual gifts for relatives. We laughed so much. The way he'd hug me. He had a signature hug. Strong, comforting, warm. I felt safe. Random moments. The times we argued over silly things, like the best topping for pizza, or which Netflix show to watch. Those moments are so trivial, yet I'd give anything to have them back. I also think about his grin, the shape of his eyebrows when he was amused, the jokes he told, the supportive words he gave me when I was stressed. That's the man I want to remember, not the still figure lying on a hospital stretcher. Maybe eventually I'll gather photos and memories in a scrapbook or something to keep him close. Advice I'm telling myself, and anyone in a similar situation: feel it. Don't try to bury the grief or rush yourself to be okay. Grief is raw and overwhelming. You deserve time and space to cry, scream, or just stare blankly. Accept help. Let family, friends, or counselors step in. Let them bring meals, or just sit with you. You're not imposing on them. People want to help. Let go of guilt. If you're beating yourself up with, "What if I'd done something?" remember that unexpected medical emergencies happen. You did the best you could with the information you had. Remember their love. The reason you're crushed is because you shared something real. That love doesn't vanish with death, but it changes form. Let those memories remind you how deeply you can love and be loved. Take one day at a time. This cliché is repeated because it's true. Plan only as far as you need to. If you can't imagine next week, focus on surviving today, or even this hour. Conclusion: a heartbreaking new reality. He died this morning. Those words echo in my mind every time I exhale. This heartbreak is brand new, so fresh that I barely can process it. My mind is all jumbled with tasks I need to do. Arrangements for a memorial, phone calls to extended family. But all I really want is to curl into a ball, replay the best memories, and refuse to accept that he's gone. I wrote this to share my grief, and to let others know that losing a partner, someone you planned a future with, can feel like the world is ending. I'm not sure how I'll recover, or if recover is even the right word. Life from here on is uncharted territory. But I also sense that he'd want me to find a way forward. He was the kind of person who'd want me to keep living, loving, and even laughing when I'm ready. So for now, I'll cry. I'll rage at the unfairness. I'll cling to those who love me. I'll wait for the coroner's report. I'll do what I must for the funeral. And each day I'll try to stand, even if it's shaky, because that's all any of us can do when tragedy hits. And maybe someday, I'll feel ready to hold his memory in my heart without the searing pain that's choking me now. Maybe. I'm hoping for that day. But if you're reading this and you, too, have lost someone suddenly, let's remind each other, we're not alone in this. The heartbreak is indescribable. But so is the capacity for healing, eventually, in whatever form that takes. For me, I guess the first step is to just keep breathing, minute by minute, until I can shape a new life around the emptiness.